Welcome to the Nonprofits. For our second segment this week, we're moving from an attack on K-12 education to an attack on post-secondary education. 6 major public university systems in Republican-led states, led by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, are forming a new accrediting body called the Commission for Public Higher Education. The goal is to provide a conservative alternative to existing accreditors, which DeSantis and others criticize as ideologically biased. This move follows broader Republican efforts to challenge traditional accreditation systems and reduce influence from diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, otherwise known as DEI. Supporters say the new commission will focus on student outcomes and efficiency, while critics warn it could politicize academic standards. This story is from Straight Arrow News by Dan Levin and Kara Rucker on June 27th, 2025. And I'd like to start with Eli today. Eli, we want to, if this effort comes to fruition, what will be some of the immediate changes that students will see on college campuses?
To start, this is the same, the university system of Florida that is leading this with, of course, Ron DeSantis. They're the same ones that got rid of all of their woke textbooks last August, probably last fall when before the new semester started. Now their new accreditation system is going to, offer anti-woke credits. What it says is an alternative that focuses on student achievement rather than the ideological fads that have so permeated crediting bodies over the years. It's a quote from DeSantis. So they're going to see things like they're not going to what we're having in campuses nowadays is things where we're teaching people about hey, this is why we're seeing trans people. This is why we see homosexuality. This is just a thing that happens in human animals. And it's not a political belief. It's not like a lifestyle. It's just the way that some people are. And now that they're going to be taking things like that out of these campuses that are accredited with this new system, and marginalized people, if they even go to those campuses,
right,
aren't going to be safe physically. It's not necessarily that they will be unsafe, because that's being, I think, cynical, but it's not going to be intended to ensure that the environment is safe for them. And that right. is really just what they're doing is sort of bottlenecking their education to a specific demographic, or at least excluding specific demographics.
Right. Well, if something is allowed, that something is encouraged then, right? Is that, kind of along those lines? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah. In a way, yeah, they're they're not allowing, I guess, but they're just sort of not discourage. I'm trying to be really careful because I want to be fair. I don't know if it's necessarily discouraging inclusion. They're just not taking steps to ensure it.
Right.
I guess.
Right. Well, if you're in an environment that has a tendency to move one direction and you're not actively working to avoid that or to prevent that, then that's the way it's going to go. So it's exactly. It's allowing and endorsing by default.
Yeah.
If you know your kid's about to run out in the street and you don't get up and do something, then you're allowing it. It's going to happen. But so that can be very frustrating. Stephen, I want to get you in on this too. Why should we care? This isn't making any changes to any existing accrediting organization. So what's the big deal here?
The big deal is that our oligarchy overlords need uneducated masses. And by removing the red tape, the bureaucracy, the standards that surround higher education, they are going to have more access to stupider people. The bureaucracy is there for a reason. Standards are there for a reason, because without standards, it's a lot easier for dubious schools to coast under the radar, right? If maybe we're going to be seeing, the next PragerU college or what have you, because with looser standards, then more people are able to get in. And that means more taxpayer dollars are contributing to an uneducated populace, which is just a shitty use of resources.
Right.
Bureaucracy is the standard that keeps con men out. And we have seen time and time again that this administration and the one, prior that they were using before is built upon con men who don't know what the fuck they're doing. But they've got the money, they've got the power, and they're just going to run with it. That's why we're having press releases outside of landscaping companies because hey, you don't need to be smart, you just got to have the power and the money and people who are willing to fucking run with it.
Exactly. That you just vividly brought that image of what was it, Giuliani and at the Four Seasons lands. That's just a perfect single photo representation of what's happening here. Eli, so Stephen was talking about wanting a dumber populace or a dumber student body. I mean, do you think that's what's really happening? What do you think is the real objective here?
I think that fits pretty well with what I was thinking. Not strictly that, but I saw there was a quote from Education Secretary Linda McMahon, who said instead of pushing schools to adopt divisive DEI ideology, accreditors should be focused on helping schools improve graduation rates and graduates' performance in the labor market. And that was regarding an executive order signed by the OP, which when you put into the context of diverting funds and like slashing DEI, it sounds a lot to me like the university accrediting agencies, by the way, is who we're talking about, shouldn't be focusing on helping and including marginalized people or underprivileged people access and complete their education. You should be focused on improving graduation rates and improving their performance in the labor market, so we can have more tax-paying workers in the labor force, which when you translate into what it really means, says we don't care about diversity, we just care about tax revenue. And even the chairperson of the Council of the Regional Accrediting Commissions, I had her name here, I thought, but I can't find it in my notes right now. She responded to the executive order and to what was going on with these education changes, and said, in part, we firmly reject the president's mischaracterization of accreditors' role in the nation's post-secondary education. So the thing that as Ms. McMahon said, that these accrediting agencies should stop focusing on this, start focusing on this. Not only are they not doing the thing that they're saying stop doing, that's not a part of what they do, and neither is the new thing that they're saying this is what you should be doing, aren't a part of what they do. And they're saying we're going to try to cooperate, but you're asking us to do something that's just not part of what we do. And so because of this, they're going to go and create their own accrediting agency that does this thing that they want. It's like that Justin Long movie called Accepted, where he can't get into any of the universities because they won't take him, so they just created their own university.
That was great. I love that movie.
Yeah, I'm a Justin Long fan. But yeah, that's kind of what DeSantis is, the guy that couldn't get. I don't know. I know something about accrediting agencies. There's a joke in there. I'll give it to the audience to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. Leave that as an exercise for the listener. Right.
Mm-hmm. Drop it in the comments.
Yeah. We don't want to make it too easy on everyone. Right. We don't want to make it too. We need a little coming back this way a little bit. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
there was a phrase in there that you said that really, I mean, it's just, if you could custom design a thing that would just push my buttons, and that was improve graduation rates and get people better ready for the job market. And for one thing, the goal shouldn't necessarily be to improve graduation rates. We could do that overnight if we wanted to. I could give all my students A's, and that would be super easy. We all do that. Everybody would graduate, and we would max out graduation rates. The important thing is producing quality graduates. We want to have educated citizens. It's not about getting, improving graduation rates so that your numbers look good on your semester reports. It's about having quality students coming out of your institution, so that way, so that they can contribute to society and all the things that come from that. And then the idea that, I don't know, this is really just a personal crusade for me, that when they present college and higher education in general as simply a route to get a job. I mean, yes, that does happen. And of course, that's a major part of how students decide what classes and what majors and so forth that they want to do. But the idea of college in general, you don't just take classes just for that job. You're not just going there for the job skills. You want to have a well-rounded education so that you can know things, you can have discussions about things like politics. And of course, I suppose that would maybe be a bad thing. And that might be something that they're wanting to avoid. They don't want people having discussions about, what's going on in this world, or literature or art or philosophy or any of these wonderful things that a well-rounded education gives you. So it really just, I don't know, busts my buttons to hear people say stuff like that.
And on top of that, like, how many college, university grads are currently working in the field of their study? Like, that seems like a little bit of a rarity. I am not a pastor, and I am not the outlier. Like that, just the idea that your education will equal your job is so pie in the sky. That's so unrealistic.
Yeah, Stephen, as long as you're talking, I want to stick with you for a second here. So we've been talking about the effects that we'll see on education itself. But what are some of the financial and political motivations that we might see? I mean, I'm imagining we all have our suspicions at this point. This isn't our first rodeo here, but what are your thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, well, there's all sorts of people who will benefit from having a different set of accrediting standards, like the next Trump University wannabe that just wants to rip students off. This is going to be great for them. Obviously, a pet project for President Pumpkin. Just the idea that, we can send us your money and we will send you a piece of paper. Other people to benefit will be religious folks, conspiracy theorists, anyone else who feels like they keep on getting shouted down for promoting dogma over facts. Then they can have a secondary education system where it gives them more space. And just politicians who want to control what students are exposed to. This gives them a great avenue to do exactly that. And at the end of the day, lowering educational standards, it creates people who are easier to control, right? Students, when they are rewarded, not for asking hard questions, but by doing what they're told, that is amazing for creating a society that is easier to manipulate, easier to govern, and easier to distract. And a public that is trained to obey rather than think will vote against its own interests. And what more does fascist oligarchy want other than people who are willing to vote for what they're told to vote for? It's a beautiful system when it is supporting you.
So true. So true. Speaking of, and these next four words that come out of my mouth, I just want to share with you the amount of effort that it takes for me to say this without gagging. Education Secretary Linda McMahon. So we've brought her up already. But she said in the article here, and I think one of you quoted a little bit of this, but I want to focus on one particular part of what she said. This executive order will bring long overdue change by accelerating the recognition of new accreditors and refocusing existing accreditors on helping member institutions improve the student outcomes families care most about. And it's that last little bit there that I want to focus on. Quote, the outcomes families care about most. And as an educator, I know that having strong family support is a strong indicator of success for students. And, that's an awesome thing. But I'm also aware how seemingly misguided family priorities can isolate students from an educational environment and can derail the entire process, to begin with. So I know that neither of you are educators, but that you're both parents, as I am as well. Although I'm an educator as well. How does and how should family priorities impact our educational system? Does educator expertise mean nothing. And so I want to go to Eli first on that. So should family priorities matter? And should what teachers have to say matter?
That's perfect. And being that I'm not an expert, I'm just speculating, and I feel licensed to speculate wildly. But that being said, I think
this is the nonprofits after all. That's
right.
kind of in the fine print of the contract there. Feel free to speculate wildly.
And I actually, because I was telling my brother about the Oklahoma story we were talking about on Monday, and I feel honestly that I think there needs to be better education generally across the board in the United States before the general public should be included in making choices about what should be taught at any level of education, because not everybody has. And I don't think I'm special. Not everyone has the takes the time to learn the methods to determine like what is a good assumption, what is not a good assumption, when can I make assumptions and when can I not, what are logical fallacies and how do I avoid them, how can I get someone else to double check my work to make sure that I'm avoiding them. And people will make decisions based on their beliefs, and they'll say, this is the answer that sounds the most like a simple answer that is, gives me the result that I want. So that one sounds the most correct to me when it's not, so it's, I think, generally speaking, families, no. Educators, yes, of course, should be involved in determining what's being educated, being taught.
Stephen, what's your take on this? I know you went through the Canadian educational system. What is give us a different perspective on that? But also as a fellow parent.
Yeah. And like, just to couch a little bit, granted, nobody is paying, sorry, no one is paying me to be an educator per se, but like, I always view that my number 2 responsibility as a parent is to educate my kids. And maybe I'm a little
definitely. That's not, I wasn't implying anything against that as definitely parents are definitely part of the process. Yeah. I'm talking about at a professional level though, as far as being a content expert.
Yes, exactly. Like, I hope that maybe this landed. I totally understand the perspective you're bringing to it. I hope that because you're in the field, because this is your industry, I hope that it landed differently than someone who doesn't know a fucking thing about education, like Ms. McMahon. Hopefully that she's just using this as a buzzword, like, oh yeah, families. If we want to show that, we care about families and we care about the things that families care about. So that's why the cares of families, this will make them money and that will make them happy. I hope that that's what they meant, and not that families should have a say in what, how in shaping education. I hope, but I hope for a lot of things that aren't coming true. So.
Yeah, I remember I had before I was teaching at a college level. Now, my career, I started out as a high school teacher, and then when I moved on from that, I taught for a year at an online high school. And many of our families that used the online high school system were Jehovah's Witness. We have a large population of Jehovah's Witness in Minnesota. And there was always an issue of considering the parent, the wishes of the parents as you prepare your curriculum, and that just always rubbed me the wrong way, both as an educator and as an atheist, and as an American. But it just really, and just, I don't know. To me, it just forever tainted any kind of discussion that could be had about parental involvement. And I'm sure that I'm a little biased here, and I'm sure I'm a little cynical on this. So I appreciate having both of you here to kind of keep me in check on that a little bit. So if this trend continues, that of politically motivated compartmentalization of our public education system, we may eventually see a liberal education system and a completely separate conservative education system. And we'll start with Eli here. Do you think that would be a good thing? Do you think would that be a bad thing? What would be the ultimate effects of that? And how would that affect the U.S.'s place in the world as an educator?
I think ultimately, so if we have basically different factions of Americans being educated with distinct facts, which actually that was not intended to be a pun, but I'll accept it. Then it makes me I'm on movie references tonight. It makes me think of that Divergent series where they have the different factions that have like different purposes, and some of them
Right.
are,
Yeah.
lawyers, or and I think it would generally be bad, because if you have education standards based on an ideology that isn't designed to check for bias, then you're going to have runaway bias, and then you're just going to have a vast swath of land on the planet where nobody has any idea what reality is, and that would be the end of our run, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen, I want you to answer a very, very, and especially since you're not an American, as a very important question here. Now, my question is, if we do end up with a totally separate system, we have the liberal system and we have the conservative school system, how is that going to impact homecoming football games?
You guys are
American
crazy
football
with your sports down there. Oh my fucking God. Like, what is a huge stadium for a high school? What? No, I think it'd be really good to have a conservative and liberal higher education system. I think that'd be wonderful, because no doubt there'd be a lot more like inter-family marriages in the conservative system. And then that amount of inbreeding will just kind of Darwinian out.
Yeah, so you're thinking we're going to have some kind of meta evolution happening here, where we're going to have schools that are successful and then schools that are unsuccessful. I suppose it would depend on who happens to be in charge at the time. All the money will go in that direction, right?
Yeah, like I know that it's like the idea that students become more liberal when they are in post-secondary education is just an indicator of the fact of what happens when you are exposed to different ideas. It's hard to keep your mind closed and narrow when you are being bombarded by different ideas. And isn't that the whole point of education? Is to be getting new ideas?
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't understand how a conservative education system can operate in the long term, outside of sustaining a broken system, whereas the other system, even if it isn't as well funded, is still going to continue to evolve, because that's what new ideas do to a person. They make you evolve.
I agree completely. In fact, I had a whole big spiel. I was going to talk about the liberalizing effects of higher education, but we're out of time. So we'll have to tackle that next time. So I appreciate both of you hanging in there with me today. And I appreciate all of you out there hanging in there with us. If you want to see more nonprofits, then just click right here.